Hello, good evening, welcome to the Tunnel Podcast. As we look back on the fallout from Frankfurt, England won. Denmark won, nearly forgot who they're playing there. It's been that rough 24 hours there. Delighted to say I'm joined by our resident pundit, Tom Goffe. Tom, how are we doing?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks, mate.
Excellent, and we've got a very special guest joining us tonight, staunch Newcastle United supporter, and when she's not following Newcastle, she's following England as well. Zara May Rose. Zara, thanks for calling. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
No, delighted. As I say, we'll go through last night's performance. Loads and loads to talk about, as you can imagine. England won, Denmark won. But Tom, we'll start with you. The performance in general has took an absolute beating, and rightly so.
Yes, mate. Bitterly disappointed with last night's performance. Obviously was defending Southgate after the first game. I didn't think we played too badly. In the first half of the game against Serbia, weren't great in the second half, but put it down to maybe first game in the tournament, nerves and, just settling in a bit. And then, hoping for, much improved performance against the Danes. But, it wasn't to be. That might be, the worst performance I've seen under Southgate. I know we've kind of had a few drab affairs against, likes of Macedonia away and stuff in qualifiers, but I just think in terms of being in the tournament, and what's at stake, etc. I just think that's definitely up there, one of the worst performances I've seen under Southgate.
So is that something you go along with in terms of just there was press didn't seem like it was good enough. They kept giving the possession away as well, didn't create an awful lot. How do we go about changing that going into that next game at the weekend?
Yeah, so I agree with Tom a lot, and I'm exactly the same. I'm never a pessimist when it comes into football games, first games of the tournament, stuff like that. I'm never a pessimist, and I always try to back Southgate as best as I can, but it's hard to defend. It's really hard to defend now because, we were playing so deep and something needs to change for the next game because it's just not good enough. There was no cohesion there. It was getting sloppy in possession and Denmark were the better team. I think we were lucky that they didn't come away with 2-1.
Yeah, no, absolutely, certainly. Tom, you look at performances out the pitch, it's really difficult to pick out any standouts, but we'll come on to Mark Gay in a moment because I thought he was good again, but Jude Bellingham, polar opposite to what we saw in the first game. No goals, no assists, no shots. I think created one chance, 2 chances in the opposition box, and he lost 10 duels during the game, which, as I say, in stark contrast to the first game, he just wasn't imposing enough at all.
Yeah, he didn't have a good game, but I think you just touched on Mark Gay. I think he was the only one that could come off that pitch, and hold his head up high. I think bar him, they all put in a really poor performance. But look, I'm very much now of the opinion that I don't think you can aim too much criticism towards the players. I do genuinely believe that the issue is coming from Southgate and his decisions and, the players he's picking in the starting 11 and his tactics,
So I'll jump in there then. What are the tactics? Because I can't see.
Well, this is it. My personal opinion is I just don't think he's got a plan B. I think, we played this 4-2, 3-1 formation, and I'll be honest with you, I think Southgate has relied a lot on the fact that we've got some good players. We've got some world-class players in there, and if you put them on the pitch, I do genuinely believe that there's a bit of hope there that these guys are going to, quality's going to come through and they're going to, get a result, score some goals, etc., etc. But I genuinely feel when things start to get tough, and we're finding it difficult to break teams down or teams kind of starting to get the better of us, there just isn't a plan B there. I think that was clearly evident last night against Denmark in that, again, we didn't start too badly, and we obviously got an early goal. But then as soon as the Danes you could almost pinpoint the moment where they almost worked us out, and they started to press more aggressively and close certain players down quickly, to stop them having time on the ball. and as soon as that happened, you're kind of there as a fan waiting for Southgate to adapt, change his approach and kind of get some messages on, onto the players on the pitch. And it just never happened. It never happened for the remainder of the game. I know he made some substitutions, later on in the game, but it was just like for like substitutions. There was no change to the formation, that the tactics, the approach. It was almost as if he was just hoping that they'll come good at some point eventually, and they'll kind of start kind of creating some chances, put some pressure back onto the Danes, but it just never happened.
Zara, we spoke the other night with Martin Sanders, and he was agreeing that this is almost like another golden generation situation where you've got that many good players, you're trying to shoehorn them all in. You've got Phil Foden playing on the left-hand side. Behind him is Kieran Trippier, who you'll know very well. He's all right-footed, and he's not even shy and showing that, So it's trying to get a balance. You've got Anthony Gordon on the bench as well. It really is. It's a big conundrum of this sorts about how you get the best out of these players. They're doing it every week at club level. You look at Phil Foden, as we mentioned there again, player of the season, Jude Bellingham as well, but they're coming to England and it's just not clicking.
Yeah, well, exactly that. Like he's acting like he hasn't got these bench options, but he absolutely does. Like you said, like Trippier's playing left back, but he's very much right-footed. Like he's not built for that role. Like, do you know what I mean? So we need Gordon to come in. We need Gordon on the left wing. We need someone who is left-footed, who has a preferred left foot, and yeah, that's why we're struggling so much at the minute, because we've got Foden, who's kind of like playing as a 10, and then as he's playing into that 10 role, you've got Trippier coming up on the left trying to stretch the pitch and stuff. But this is not working. It's not working. He needs Gordon. If you're going to play Foden like in the 10, do that, but put Gordon on the wing so you've got those options. Because a lot of the time you see like Saka, they was playing it a lot to Saka on the right, and then like said, Denmark started to work it out, became a bit predictable what we were starting to do, because Saka was the one making those runs. But if we've got Gordon, he knows how to make those runs. Like at Newcastle, he does it all the time. He makes those runs into the box. He knows how to get in and around the box. So why not try that option?
Tom, it's a point well made in the sense that, we need to try and, I keep saying I'm going to get shot for that for any Scotland fans that listen. England need to try and find a balance to this side, especially down that left. You spoke quite openly when we talked about the squad getting announced a couple of weeks ago, and the decision to take Luke Shaw. You've got guys like Ben Chilwell at club level who was omitted. There just seems to be no option really at left back, and it's a strange one from Gareth Southgate.
Yeah, 100%. Well, yeah, like you said, when we did a pod after the squad was announced, I just couldn't believe that he was taking Shaw for starters because he's just been injured all season, and it was kind of 50-50. He was as to whether he was even going to play any minutes at the tournament. But then, to not then see someone like Chilwell. I know Chilwell. Just getting a bit of feedback then. Sorry. I know Chilwell didn't have a good season for Chelsea, but still, he's an out-and-out left back, left-footed, and on his day, he can perform. He's a good player, at international level as well. And even someone like the lad at Crystal Palace, Mitchell, I just cannot believe that we didn't take another left back, in the squad. And it's proven now, to be a big mistake. Look, I like Kieran Trippier a lot, and I said to you as well, didn't I? I said I was glad he was in the squad because it's a young team, and I felt like they needed a few more people like Trippier who've got the experience, an older head. You need to get that balance right, don't you? But he's obviously struggling playing at left back. If you were to ask him himself, he'd say he don't want to be playing there. He's just doing it, to help the team out. But yeah, that left side is just creating such a disbalance, isn't it, for the rest of the team? Because, like you said, Foden, his natural instinct is to just move inside, isn't it, and try and link up playing that kind of number 10 role. He hasn't got much pace, has he? He's very much a playmaker. So it's just a real kind of mess on that left hand side. And like you rightly touched on the right hand side is where our biggest threat's coming from. But then I think the Danes probably saw that against Serbia, that the threat was coming from Walker and Saka. So they probably paid a bit more attention, didn't they, to that side of the pitch and nullified them both well, didn't they? So, yeah, it's good. It's got to a point now. He's got to, you're probably going to, one of the questions you've got coming up, but he's got to make some changes for the next game. He simply cannot start that 11 in that system for the next game, because then, it's just going to be, I can't, the backlash that's going to come from the England fans and the press, etc. It's just going to be carnage.
Zara, I picked up on a tweet this morning from Jimmy Carragher. He said, Gareth came into the tournament and picked his best players. It hasn't worked. He's now got to pick his best team and sacrifice quality for pace and energy. England look shattered and can't get the ball back off the opposition. That was evident. And as you say about bringing in the likes of Anthony Gordon, what other changes would you like to see come Sunday? Because, as you say, they are starting to look leggy, especially in the middle of the pitch.
Yeah, so I mean, again, and you've seen it in the tweet, I have defended Trent as well, because I do think he's got that passing. I see where Southgate's trying to go with Trent, but it's just not working, and that's fine. And I think maybe we do perhaps need to drop him in the midfield and have Bellingham and Rice play together, sort of as like an Bellingham as an 8, so he can sort of attack, and Rice can hold the midfield, and have Gordon, like I said again, Gordon on the left wing, and then you've got options as well on the bench as well. So you've got Watkins, which I think again is a good set of fresh legs, and he proved that as well. He when he got subbed on for Kane, which I think was the right decision. It did bring that pace that I think we did need, because Kane was sitting deep. He wasn't really pressing. But Watkins was making those runs, and I think that's the sort of, we do need that change of pace in the team 100%, and we've got those options as well.
We'll come on to Harry Kane in a moment, but Tom, Super Troopers put in a comment here. It says they gave the Danish defenders no headaches, just playing in front of the defenders the entire game, squeezing the entire game into the middle of the pitch, gave nobody any time or space.
Yeah, spot on. It's I was watching the analysis afterwards, and yeah, like I touched on earlier with Foden, he kept wanting to come inside and between the lines, but he very much central, trying to link up the play. And Kane was doing it, wasn't he? Kane, just as the game went on, was just getting deeper and deeper and deeper. The only, like I said, it was only really Saka and Walker trying to get a bit of width, and yeah, it was just all too easy for the Danes, because they just, they worked out. They worked us out. I know we got the goal, but the goal itself was quite fortuitous in that, Walker kind of was alert, wasn't he, and picked up on the mistake. It was a good finish from Kane, but like I said, it came from a mistake from the Danes. I very much felt as soon as they worked us out, that was it. They just completely nullified us. So yeah, it's. I agree 100% what I was saying. I just think that Kane as well. I don't think. I think you're going to ask about Kane a bit later on, but I just think if you're going to keep Kane in, I was watching something quite interesting today where it was showing, with England kind of not too long ago, probably back in the last Euros tournament, where we finished runners up, where Kane was dropping deep, but it was very effective because he had Sterling and Saka running either side of him, out wide. Pace wide. Kane was dropping in, bringing the defenders in with him, but we had, pace out wide, and it was stretching the defence. And, it was an interesting article, and they were saying, that's what England's lacking now. He's playing the same system, but he's not playing the similar type of players. He hasn't really replaced Sterling with like for like. And I agree 100%. He's got to play someone like Gordon or Bowen. Someone who stretches the pitch, hugs the touchline. He's got plenty of pace, likes to take the fullbacks on.
I think Anthony Gordon's earned his chance. He had a really good season for Newcastle, you'd have to say, and I think he won the Euros for the 21s he won as well. So I think he's got something to prove. Jared Bowen certainly looks to be a favourite coming off the bench. He's come on for Saka on a couple of occasions. I know we saw Eze last night as well. But so I'll come back to you on Harry Kane, because it's just, I know he got his goal last night, albeit through about 3 or 4 It's come through about 3 or 4 players, but he just hasn't looked himself, has he? He's looked, void in games almost. He's not creating a lot of chances. He's coming way too deep at times. He was deeper than Jude Bellingham against Denmark. It's a puzzling one for Harry.
Yeah, he looks really like lethargic as well. Like it's worrying because he's obviously got the reputation of being the best like finisher and like goal scorer, which is like fantastic, but he needs to be in the box or at least around the box to be finishing or scoring goals. So when they even showed the average positioning after we scored the first goal, and not one of our players is beyond the halfway line. So it is worrying because he doesn't look himself. He doesn't look up for it really. We need someone who's pressing, and it did make all the difference when Watkins came on, because like you said, we needed to stretch their back line, and Watkins was doing that, but he was kind of doing it solo. And when you don't have many options around you, you're going to get picked off, and that's just what happened, unfortunately. So.
Tom, just on Watkins, actually, because it only took a couple of minutes before he was in behind. I think he'd won a corner pretty early on. And I'm not saying that Southgate drops Kane, but maybe just pulls him out for this one, gives someone else a chance and to see what they can do. Ivan Toney's still to come off the bench as well if he's going to be used. So he's certainly got options in that forward area.
Yeah, everyone was crying out for Watkins to come on, weren't they? We saw that Kane wasn't having a good game, and like Zara touched on, he just didn't. He looked knackered, didn't he? Just didn't look up for it. Looked really lethargic. Didn't look his usual self. But again, Southgate, he always seems to make his substitutions too late. I think he only gave Watkins. I think Watkins came on around the 70-minute mark, and he could have easily brought him on kind of after 55, 60 minutes, and given Watkins a really good bit of time to try and pose a threat and, get settled into the game. Personally, I don't think he'll do it. I think I said this in the last pod to you. I just don't trust Southgate to make those big calls, those brave decisions to drop the likes of Kane, to drop the likes of Foden. As much as he needs to do it in that next game, I don't think he would. Yeah, I'd 100% just give Watkins a game. I think there was debate, wasn't there, about taking Toney and Watkins, and I was firmly saying, if it's going to be one, it's got to be Watkins after the season he's had. As much as it pains me to say it, being a West Brom fan, and him being a Villa lad. But yeah, I think he looked sharp. He was, one of very, very few positives, wasn't he, last night when he came on. I think it was within a couple of minutes he kind of forced a save out the goal. He didn't ball over the top, exactly what we'd been crying out for. So I'd give him a game 100% in the next one.
Listen, we've been talking about Gareth inadvertently all through the last 20 minutes or so, but the big story came in his post-match. Zara, he's been clipped up numerous times throughout the day saying that they've struggled to replace Kalvin Phillips in the middle of the pitch, which just seems really bizarre, especially if you're Adam Wharton or Kobe Mainoo sitting on the bench listening to that.
I don't know, where did he even get that from? It's like he plucked that out of thin air. Like, I just don't understand it. I honestly couldn't believe it when I saw it posted on Twitter. But yeah, like he said, what if it's such a concern for him, then why isn't he playing Adam Wharton? Like, why he can just as the progression he's had as well for his age. Why isn't he playing him? Why isn't he playing him? He can play that central defense just as well. So I just don't. It baffled me. Honestly, baffled me.
Thomas, I listened to Ian Wright speak late last night as well, but particularly about Adam Wharton on that fact, saying that he's the guy to come in. It's not a case of pulling Jude back in, put Adam Wharton in there. He's a calming influence. He'll take it in his stride, and he's got a bit of class about him, like we saw him, the friendly before the tournament kicked off.
Yeah, that'd be the move. That'd be the change I'd make. I think. As much as I do think Jude Bellingham could drop deeper and play alongside Rice. I do think he's got the ability to do that. He used to do that, before he was pushed further up the pitch by Real Madrid. I think I'm surprised again. I just in disbelief that he didn't bring Wharton on in the game yesterday. Look, I can understand why he brought Gallagher on, because it was very lethargic in the middle of the pitch. Well, it was lethargic everywhere, but he brought Gallagher on because he's just running machine, isn't he? And to try and get a bit of energy in there and close the the Danes down. So I can understand why he did that, but like Zara said, I just think Wharton, his game is very much just like picking the ball up and making those passes through the lines, moving the ball quickly on, trying to, progress up the pitch. And that's what we were lacking so badly last night. Declan Rice, big fan of Declan Rice. He had an real off night, didn't he? The amount of misplaced passes he made, and you could see he was struggling, and he was just crying out for someone to just with a calm head come on and take control of the middle of the pitch and try and keep hold of possession, and like I said, just kind of make some passes through the lines. It just, I said at the start, that was probably the worst I've ever seen England in possession. I lost count the amount of times we just kind of played balls out for throw-ins and corners and stuff. It was crazy. It was absolutely bonkers. So yeah, well, I agree. I think Wharton, I'd definitely give him a game, especially against someone like Slovenia. Look, I don't want to be, Slovenia have had a good start to the tournament. Drew their first 2 matches, haven't they? But I could understand maybe why they wouldn't play Wharton against one of the top team, in a tournament. The pressure and him not having any experience. But against someone like Slovenia, we've got 4 points on the board as well. I think it'd be a perfect opportunity to give him 90 minutes to try and get him a bit of experience and try and settle him a bit. Yeah.
Zara, just on Slovenia, this is all or nothing for them now. They know they can get 3 points in this one. They're probably going to go through with 5. So I dare say they'll be chucking everything at England and trying to make their best efforts. As Tom says, I know he was going to say lesser side and he stopped himself. He got caught out the other night with that one, didn't you, Tom? They are obviously a smaller nation, but certainly, they won't be feared, having watched England last night.
Yeah, well, that's the good thing about football, is anything can happen, even if you are a lesser side, but anything can happen. And I think Southgate's going to be under pressure, though. That's the thing with changing the team. I don't think he's going to play the same starting 11 again. I don't think he will. Obviously, it didn't really work against Serbia, but he tried it again and just didn't work again. So if he does play the same starting 11, then I don't know. I can't defend him anymore. But I think, like I said, Slovenia will, be given it everything. So I think it's going to be interesting. It's going to be really, really interesting. But we definitely need to make some changes.
Tom, just to come back, you mentioned Declan Rice, and you said obviously it's probably the worst you've seen him play for England. Much to the delight of James McLean, because he'd been shouting his mouth off in the lead up to this one, just saying that Declan, he's not a world class player, he's not a £100 million player. All he does is pass battles into the sides. What did you make of those comments? I know you were sort of on the fence, almost maybe sitting beside James McLean.
Yeah, I think Declan Rice is fantastic. I honestly do. And it's ironic, really, that McLean come out with those comments and it was kind of doing the rounds on social media. And then he went and put in the performance he did, because he is so much better than that, Declan Rice, and that the vast majority of times I've seen him in an England shirt, he's been fantastic. So, yeah, it was just typical, wasn't it, that McLean had come out with that and Rice played the way he did. But the only thing I just I felt I agreed with a little bit to an extent was, I do think Rice sometimes, I do think he just hasn't got, he's got to just get a little bit of extra edge in terms of his attacking game. I think defensively, as a kind of sitting midfielder, defensively protecting the back four and breaking things up, he's absolutely fantastic. He is superb at that role. I do feel a little bit that there's, and I think I was saying this to you, that there's players out there who, when they do get the ball, moving forward with it, are better than him. And I was saying that's the area I feel Rice can improve on. And then he kind of proved the point in that game, in that again, I saw something on social media today, and again, take it with a bit of a pinch of salt, because he was, in terms of options in front of him, it wasn't fantastic yet. But there was a lot of times where he was picking up the ball and he had time to turn and drive forward, at least turn. And he was just, passing the ball back straight away and a lot of sideways passes. And but I don't agree with him saying he's not. I think he's very close to being a world-class player, and he will be. He's still quite young. I do think he will be a world-class player. But the irony that McLean's comments came to fruition in that match.
He'd have been loving that, watching that.
He was watching that with a massive grin.
He's a staunch Republican. He hates everything English, and he won't mind me saying that. I tell you. Okay, listen, just as I'll come back to you then, because it would be, as I say, remiss of me to get somebody on that's, as staunch a Geordie as you are, and not maybe mention Eddie Howe, because obviously every time this England job, comes up or rumblings of Gareth going, Eddie Howe's name is mentioned. Is that someone you could see Eddie Howe jumping at, or do you think he's got just too much unfinished business here at St James's Park?
Yeah, see, that's a difficult one, because I would absolutely love to see Eddie Howe take the manager role of England. I think the way he plays with attacking football is exactly what England needs as well. But yeah, again, he's not someone I'd want to take away from Newcastle just for a minute, because with the summer transfer window coming up, like you never know what's going to happen.
You could have him if Eddie Howe takes it.
Yeah, maybe, but I love Eddie Howe. I'm very happy with him. Very happy with him. We're all very happy with him. We don't want him to go. We're going to hang on to him for as long as we can, I think. But 100%, if ever, God forbid, he was to leave Newcastle, I would love to see him in that England manager role. 100%.
Tom, on a serious note, it does look like, win or bust, Gareth will leave at the end of this tournament. And whether it's going to be Eddie Howe or Jurgen Klopp or another, it's going to be. It seems like it's still the same problems for England. It's still the same group of players. It's still trying to get them all in. Is it still the job that everyone would want?
I think so. I've got behind Gav Southgate and I've supported him, but on the flip side, I've always thought that. Let's just put it this way. I was talking to someone the other day and I was saying, well, if you look at Southgate before he became the England manager, I think he was in the youth levels. He was with the under-21s and he worked his way up through the youth levels at through England. But then before that, I remember him being Middlesbrough manager in the Championship when West Brom were playing in the Championship, and he got the boot for Middlesbrough in the Championship. So in terms of, you look at his credentials in terms of coaching, in this country before he got into the mix with England, and their youth levels, it's not very impressive, is it? And I do think it's going to happen. I think, regardless of what, I do think, and I think, you can all the interviews that I've seen of Southgate, so there's like an air of resignation, isn't there, with it, in that he I think he's made his mind up, and I think that those above him have as well. So, but I think they've got to push the boat out, and I do think it will be a very what's the word? Appealing job. I do, and I think they've just got to push the boat out and bring someone in. I'd be over the moon with Eddie Howe. It's got to be someone who's managed at the highest level. And
do you think it's got to be somebody that's managed elite players? Because England now, the squad is just full of elite players.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly that. They've got to have played. They've got to have coached a team at the highest level. So in one of the top leagues, and in Europe as well, in my opinion. And like Howe's obviously got some European experience now. And they simply have to, because I just think you're right. I just think, in terms of the players we've got at our disposal, they're world class. We've still got the best squad at this competition, in my opinion. And there's got to be a little bit in there. These guys throughout the rest of the season are working with the best. Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp and Carlo Ancelotti and these guys. The very best. And then they come to England. And, I'm not saying Southgate, just a complete blooming amateur. I'm not saying that whatsoever. But there's got to be a gap there, hasn't there, between these guys and Southgate, who, like I said, his last kind of club level managerial experience was with Middlesbrough in the Championship. There's got to be, hasn't there? So, and I reckon that probably does play in the players' minds a little bit, in terms of what they're seeing on the training pitch with Pep, and then with Southgate and his guys. That sounds a bit harsh, but yeah.
Give us a quick prediction then for the third game, Tom.
I've got to see the team sheet, mate. I honestly have. I can't make a decision. Well, let's do it this way. If he goes with the same team, same system and formation, it will be tough again, because I've watched Slovenia's 2 games and they've put up a good fight. They're one of these teams that's come into it, no fear, nothing to lose, and they're giving everyone a good game. So yeah, it'll be tough. Once again, I don't think it'll be pretty. But if he makes some of the changes which we've been discussing tonight, I guarantee we'll see a much improved performance, and get the 3 points needed.
Zara May, it's important to remember they are still top of the group. It's all in their hands. Prediction for Tuesday night?
I'd say I agree with Tom. Like, I can't, unless I see the team sheet, it's hard to predict. But I mean, hoping that Southgate does make the changes. I think not only is he under pressure, but all the players are now as well, because after that performance last night, I think they've all reflected on it, and they all said it wasn't good enough. So I think even more so, they're in a more pressured position now to really play for it. So I think if he does make the changes, I do think I'm going to predict a 3-1, because like you said, they have put up a good fight so far.
Score some goals. That's what we've been after. Okay, we'll draw a line under the English stuff there just quickly before we wrap it up. Zara, I'll come back to you just on the tournament as a whole. I was asking the guests last night, any standouts, anyone that's really caught your eye, or any match in particular you've enjoyed watching?
Gay's one that's absolutely been like phenomenal in both games. I've enjoyed watching him so much. Like last night, he had he won 100% of his tackles, and his recovery is like amazing as well. Like he honestly, I think he's gonna make it hard for Maguire to fit back into the squad, because he's just been that amazing. I don't think I wasn't expecting it, to be honest with you. Like, I wasn't expecting him and Stones to have that amazing centre back partnership that they've got, but they work so well together, and I think it's going to make it hard for Maguire to get back in on the squad, I reckon.
100%. Tom, just final word to you then, in terms of standouts at the tournament so far. Is there anyone that would top Mark Gay for you?
In terms of individuals, it's got to be that young lad at Spain that's kind of blown me away. Like, I think for me, Spain have looked the best team so far. The top team that has settled the quickest. And you look at they easily dispatched Croatia, and then last night, I didn't watch all the game last night, but what I did watch, Spain were just in complete control. And from everything I've read, it should have been more than a 1-0 scoreline. They absolutely dominated. So I think Spain have impressed me the most. And the fact, is it Lamine Yamal? Is it that's his
16-year-old? Yeah.
I just can't get my head around the fact he's 16. I honestly can't. I was talking to you about Jude Bellingham. Like, it blows my mind that Jude Bellingham's only just turned 20, but this kid's 16, just mixing it with like the likes of Rodri, the best. These guys who've won it all, and unbelievable. So yeah, I think they are looking, them and the Germans. I think them and the Germans are the 2 standout teams so far for me. I think we haven't got going whatsoever. France, they're obviously, they've kicked off tonight. They're playing tonight, aren't they? France, while we're
against the Dutch. Yeah, that's all live now.
Yeah, so I'll be interested to see. But they were bang average in their game. Portugal as well. So yeah, plenty of time left though, isn't there, for all these teams to start turning it on, England included, hopefully.
Yeah, let's not write off the Scottish just yet. All right. Okay, then. Zara, just final point to you, because I saw your tweet last night saying that you were going to switch allegiance to the Spanish. I thought you were going to come on as I say, as Zara Del May Rosa tonight instead of Zara May Rose. But on a serious note, England against Spain would just be a frightening prospect at this very moment.
Oh my God, yeah. I think if it was England versus Spain at the minute, God, yeah, Spain's coming out on top all the way. at the minute. Like they are a very scary side to be up against. I think we're very lucky to not be in a group with them right now, considering what Southgate's tactics I don't know what his tactics currently are, but we're not working against Spain, that's for sure.
Listen, thanks very much for joining us, Tom. As always, a pleasure. We are back on Monday night with the Scotland show. I've got Lewis Allen joining me and Erin Grieve, and then we're back on Wednesday with the last group game for England. So we'll see where it takes us. We're in the last 16 with 2 teams, 1 team. It's all to play for. Thanks very much for joining us. If you've watched, like, subscribe, leave a comment, let us know what we're doing, and we'll see you again after the weekend. Thank you.